So did you know you can actually be able to build up business credit profiles and separate yourself from your personal? And this mainly tracked through different business credit bureaus such as Experian Business, Equifax Business, Small Business Financial Exchange, and Dun Bradstreet. Now, I'm going to show you in this video how to be able to properly build out your business credit profile and also be able to utilize the benefits of business credit through these different credit bureaus. We'll talk about the different payment schedules and the main differences between personal and business credit. So without further ado, let's get into this video. What's poppin', guys? So it's your boy Boo. I'm back in the office, definitely locked in, and as you guys can see, I got my black tee on, man. I'm about to go ahead and make this my moniker, honestly. So on this video, I really want to be able to show you guys the differences between business and personal credit. There's a lot of information out there, and as far as people saying get business credit, get personal credit, we're going to streamline that, and this is going to be part 3 of this series of business credit. So in today's video, really I wanted to go more into depth on how business credit is actually scored, because there are some similarities to personal credit, but business credit is a completely different monster. So throughout the video, I'm going to show you guys how business credit is actually scored and the differences between personal. So let's go ahead and get started right now, because the main difference is, right, you might be asking yourself, Boo, like what's the main difference between personal and like business? Like, can you elaborate on that? All right, so basically what that means, right, as far as the differences, the first main difference between personal and business credit is going to be with business credit, there's a lot more personal information out there. It's a lot more public. You're able to see exactly different credit bureaus. So more lenders, institutions, and even competitors can actually be able to look up your business credit profile compared to your personal, which is a lot more strict and it's a lot more classified. I mean, yeah, there's still fraud out there and people can be able to access your personal credit, but that's a lot harder than business credit, where business credit is automatically public, so you can be able to see exactly each company and also be able to see their business credit score. Now, the second main thing that's different between personal and business credit is that the scoring models, right? So the scoring models, so on the personal side, the credit scores range anywhere from 300 is like your lowest credit score possible. That's even if you just have a pulse, right? And then you have 850, which is your highest credit score model. That's on the personal side. Now with business credit, it goes from 1 to 100, and Equifax Business actually scores you from 0 to a 580 score. And so most of these scores are going to be different, and they're determined on different factors, and that's what we're going to get into. Now, the third and last major difference between business credit and personal is that business credit prioritizes on-time payments, right? So you're not necessarily going to get dinged for late payments or high utilization on the business credit side. So what's really going to affect you negatively is how long it takes for you to go ahead and make your payments on time. So the earlier you make your payments ahead of the schedule, the better off your business credit score will be. So that's going to be the main difference between personal and business right then and there. All right, so we talked about the differences, right? The main ones. Now, who are the different key players in business credit? So I know in the previous series, we talked a little bit about Dun Bradstreet. We talked about the difference between building a Dun Bradstreet number and then building up your EIN number. Now, I just want to be clear, right? Dun Bradstreet and EIN, you can be able to build up an EIN number with your Dun Bradstreet. But as far as it being tailored to actually getting credit cards, loans, and lines of credit, you want to start building with different credit bureaus such as Equifax Business, Experian Business, and also Small Business Financial Exchange. So before we dive deep into this, I wanted to talk about the 4 major players. So like I just mentioned, right, the first one is going to be your Dun Bradstreet, otherwise known as DNB. So it's one of the oldest business credit bureaus out there, and they've actually been here for a while. So they have what you call a paydex score. So I know you've been on Instagram, you hear all your top influencers saying, oh, go ahead and get an 80 paydex score. That's going to be the ultimate key to getting business credit. Yeah, that's totally fine. But as far as the 80 paydex score, that's just basically dependent off of the score model that they use. So it's anywhere from 1, which is like a terrible score, honestly, to 100, which is like the best score you could possibly get. And like I previously mentioned, the payment schedule on how soon you make your payments is going to determine where your score actually ends up lying within that 1 to 100. Now, the second major credit bureau is going to be Experian Business. And so Experian Business, just like Dun Bradstreet, actually has a score model anywhere from 1 to 100. So it's just the same as far as 100 being the best, 1 being the worst. That's going to be the main difference. Now, number 3 is going to be Equifax Business, right? So Equifax business is a little bit different. They actually have their score model that ranges all the way up to 580. So their business score model goes all the way up to 580, and 580 is going to be the best score you can be able to get with Equifax. Now, the fourth and last business credit bureau is going to be called Small Business Financial Exchange, or better known as SBFE. So this is going to be a score model that's dependent from 1 all the way to 100. So just like Experian, just like Dun Bradstreet, they have the same score model. So as you guys can see, for the most part, all of them do go from a range of 1 to 100, except for Equifax that goes to a 580. The main similarity between all these different business credit bureaus is that they rely mainly on actual business payment history. So you want to make sure you guys are paying it on time, but even with business credit, you want to pay ahead of time. That way you can be able to get the most boosted credit score. But we'll dive more in depthness on actually building out properly later on in future series. So let's get into the next subject. We'll get more into depthness on exactly when to pay it, when not to pay it, and all the different intricacies in later series. But I really wanted to talk about how your payments are actually affected your score with actual business credit. Okay, so what you guys are gonna see here, my editor should pop up a actual like chart or whatever like that, and basically make sure he does that. So if he doesn't, make sure y'all go ahead and comment below. But how this actual payment schedule actually works out, right, is that you're actually going to be able to have a different payment schedule. So your payment schedule is going to determine when you made your payments on time, and also it's going to determine your actual business credit score. So the earlier you pay it off, the better off your score is going to be. So payment comes early, you're likely going to have a 100 credit score. Now, if the payment comes a couple of days afterwards, you'll still have a really great credit score, but it's not going to be as good as a 100 score or a 580 score in Equifax. All right, so how I have it broken down, right, is when the payment comes early, which is like a couple of days, you go ahead and make your payment, right? And that's most likely going to give you guys a 100 score on Dun Bradstreet, Experian, and also Small Business Financial Exchange. Now, it's going to give you a 580 on an Equifax, so just keep that in mind. Now, the next payment schedule is going to be payment comes slightly early. So that's going to be like 7 days after it's been issued, right? This is most likely going to give you guys a score of about a 90, and you guys just want to do your calculation for Equifax because it's going to be like 580 times 90%. So let's do that. The next payment schedule we have is payment is prompt, right? So payment is prompt. Or what that means is that payment comes on time, right? So this is going to give you guys most likely a score of around an 80 score. And it's going to give you guys an 80 score in Equifax and also Experian. That's going to show you guys payment right away, payment a couple of days later, and then payment on time, right? As you guys can see, it's kind of a trend that's coming along, right? Every time you guys make your payment sooner, you'll most likely end up with 10 points or higher. So that way you guys know exactly how to be able to structure your payments and also some of your debt repayment schedules. So the next one is going to be payment comes 14 days afterwards, right? So as you guys can see, it's going to knock you guys down to about a 70 score and also account for Equifax. Now, after that, we have payment comes in 21 days afterwards. So as you guys can see as well too, you're going to have a 50 score right there as far as your payback score. So now you have a payment schedule for 30, which is going to drop you guys down to a 50 payback score, which you guys don't want to be at all. So then we just keep going down and down the payment schedule, right? So we have a payment that's going to be 60 days late, which is going to drop you guys down to a 40 score. And then you have a payment that's 90 days late, which is going to drop you guys down to a 30, all the way until you get to a payment after 120 days, which is going to get you guys down to a 20 score. So as you guys can see the trend, right, it's from payments that are coming in early all the way to payments that are late. So you don't necessarily get dinged for a late payment as you would on your personal credit score. It's just going to go ahead and lower your overall business credit score. So this is why I really like business credit, because sometimes you guys make a minimum payment on your personal side and they just kind of ding you. But with business credit, at least you get a lot more flexibility in being able to make that payment. Now, I definitely say if you guys want to have the highest business score, it's more about you paying it on time, and even earlier that you guys pay the score. You guys always want to be able to start thinking in chess, not checkers, right? Especially with a lot of these lenders. The more that you guys can show them that they can trust you, the more money that they'll lend you in the long run. So just always keep that in mind. All right, so I know we talked about payment schedule, right? We went ahead and talked a little bit about all the different business credit bureaus. So I know we talked about payment schedule and all of these different factors. You might be asking yourself, you're like, Abu, well, you talked about the different business credit bureaus, right? We talked about the payment schedule. How do I actually go to the bank and actually go ahead and get funded? So the main thing that I'm going to say, right, is that not all business credit bureaus are going to be the same. You have to understand this, right? With Dun Bradstreet, they're mainly involved with just vendor accounts. If you guys want to go ahead and get 1,000 envelopes, right, and try to go to the bank and get $100,000, it's not happening. I'm gonna just say that up front. So with Dun Bradstreet, right, you can be able to actually get vendor accounts like Uline, Granger, Quill, all of these. The thing is, lenders don't actually use them for guidelines on how they actually determine. So the Equifax is actually going to track a lot of your financial data, any type of bankruptcies, any type of liens on your actual business credit. And Equifax is also going to be able to determine your debt to income ratio, your payment schedules, and your reporting. So with Equifax, definitely a big player as far as getting lines of credit and also credit products, because they're a lot more comprehensive than Dun Bradstreet. And so Experian Business, they're actually going to go ahead and track credit card accounts, financial obligations, and also lines of credit and trade lines as well. So lenders really rely heavily on Experian Business. I mean, Experian is literally, it's a juggernaut in the credit world, just because of the fact that they have the most money, they have the most resources. So Experian is a really big one to play. And like I mentioned previously, it goes from 1 to 100. So a small business financial exchange is actually a data integrator. It actually will go ahead and pull information from Equifax Business and Experian Business in order for lenders to be able to make decisions. And that definitely plays a big factor in a lot of lending decisions. And like I mentioned previously, the score does go from 0 to 100. So in the gist, right, DMB is great for vendors, don't get me wrong, but if you guys want to be able to access those major credit products, then you will want to go ahead and start prioritizing your Equifax Business, your Experian Business, and also your small business financial exchange, because that actually plays a bigger role in you getting lended as far as for lines of credit, credit products, all that. So as far as for lines of credit, business loans, and also credit cards. So we talked about the differences, right? So why do lenders not actually use Dun Bradstreet in order to be able to make those lending decisions with Equifax, Experian, and like small business financial exchange? And so we talked a little bit about the different business credit bureaus, and you might feel a little bit misled because a lot of people are talking about DMB, right? And so people realize that DMB is really not as big of a factor as people would like it to be. So the reason is that DMB is only for vendors, right? With Equifax Business, Experian, and also small business financial exchange. So the main things is that separates them from Dun Bradstreet is that they do have more comprehensive data, just more overall data around as far as your business, and also pulling from different factors. It also has a greater payment behavior tracking. So with Equifax, Experian, and small business financial exchange, so they also go ahead and actually pull more information, not just vendor accounts. They pull information from lenders, alternative lenders, and other banks and institutions. And last but not least, these other credit bureaus, right, they actually have a better risk assessment model, right? So they're able to go ahead and see if the business is going to default. And so their risk assessment model is a lot more stricter than Dun Bradstreet. So with Equifax, Experian, and small business financial exchange, they actually can be able to predict at a higher rate if the business is going to default. So it's going to be a lot more helpful to lenders in making their lending decisions. So that's why you should mainly focus on those main business credit bureaus as far as being able to go ahead and actually get lending. As far as to be able to go ahead and get lending and walk into that bank and be able to get you guys 100,000, heck, why not even 1,000,000? So all right, guys, let's have a quick recap, right? So we just talked about 3 major things, right? We talked about how Dun Bradstreet is not as big as a factor as people make it out to be, right? As far as them only being able to report to vendors. And then also we talked about if you want to go ahead and get major lines of credit and other credit card products from the banks on the business side, you want to focus on those other 3 main ones, such as Equifax Business, Experian Business, and also small business financial exchange. And then the last thing we talked about was the actual payment structure and the payment scheduling model. So I'm up out of here, man. So if you guys could, please make sure you guys go and subscribe to this channel. Your boy's trying to hit 10K as soon as possible. Your boy's on the road to 10K. I'm giving y'all 2 more sauce. Let's get it. So make sure y'all subscribe and so stay tuned for the rest of the series on how we're going to be breaking down business credit more in depth. And like always, I'll see you at the top, my boy. Let's get it.